Hello there, cat people. Welcome to episode 7 of the Shelter Cats podcast. I'm up to 7 already? Holy crap. The completely amateur, unprofessional, lightly scripted podcast all about the shelter cats that have made a difference in my life and hopefully will inspire you to adopt a shelter cat of your own if you don't have one already. Or you'll get another one if you just have one or two, because you can never have too many. I have some great guests coming up. I have some great episodes planned. Like I said, completely unscripted, unprofessional. I'm starting to figure this out a little bit. I have some great guests coming up. Literally this afternoon, assuming I can get the technology to work, I am going to be having a conversation with one of my dearest, oldest friends. Her name is April Stewart. She lives in New York City with me. She doesn't live with me, but she lives in the same town, same city as I do. She is a great friend. We've done some animal work together. She's had cats her whole life. She is a singer. She's just an all-around wonderful human being. She's been there for me through thick and thin. So we're going to talk about our love of cats, her cats, how her cats have helped her get through some difficult times. We also love the band Yes and progressive rock, so don't be surprised if we go on tangents about the band Yes and John Anderson and progressive rock, even though it's not about cats. That's not really about cats, but what the hell? Our conversations usually take strange turns. So I'm going to be recording that later today, and that, assuming I can figure out how to record her in 2 different locations, because I said amateur, that will be out next Sunday, the 28th. And then this coming Friday, May 26th, I'm going to be having a conversation with Diane Cotolo. Now, she is the cattery manager of none other than Little Shelter Animal Rescue and Adoption Center. That is the official name of Little Shelter. I'm sure if you've been listening to these episodes, you know Little Shelter. That's where I adopted Tyler, whose story we're going to continue today, and where I adopted Tucker, who is one of his current successors. And Tucker will be featured in later episodes, but I adopted Tucker about 6 years ago, and he's been my boy ever since. He's sleeping now in one of my pillows. He has a habit of literally burying himself in my pillowcase and making it into a little day bed for himself. But he's a great cat. He's a big 17, 18-pound tabby, and literally got him in the same room, same shelter that I got Tyler. So I'm going to record her and just have her talk about Little Shelter, and it's a great organization on Long Island. They've been around since the late 20s, and we're just going to give her an opportunity to talk about Little Shelter and what they do and how they help so many homeless cats and dogs get homes. So that I'm going to interview her on Friday, and that will be out, I'm thinking, the following Sunday. I think that's June 4th. So the first Sunday in June. So we have some great episodes coming up, and I have future episodes planned where I have more of my little tips on how to bond with a shelter cat, how to, make sure that they still stay healthy, what signs to look for. So we have great stuff coming up. I'm very excited. This is just going along. I have international listeners, even listeners in Germany, I noticed this week. So I'm very excited. This is just a labor of love. And as always, if you want to reach me, and if you want to send me a message or tell me about your cat or send me a picture, or even if you disagree with something I have to say, just be nice. The website is tylerthecat.com. You could email me, dan@tylerthecat.com. I'm on Facebook. The page is called Shelter Cats, so just search Shelter Cats. I'm on TikTok and Instagram. Both just search Shelter Cats Podcast and you'll find the page. I Instagram pretty much every day. I TikTok every couple of days, videos of my gang, so feel free. And I started a Twitter. Haven't done much with it yet, but Twitter is Shelter Cats Pod. I couldn't find Shelter Cats Podcast. It was taken, and Shelter Cats was taken. So Shelter Cats Pod, Pod. That's on Twitter, so feel free to follow me there. Would love to hear from you, and don't be shy. So today's story, episode 7, is called Tyler's First Weekend. So we're going to literally pick up where we left off 2 weeks ago and continue the story of Tyler, literally the day he came home to live with me. That was midday on Saturday, December 9th, 2000. So I'm going to include like the last little bit of that episode from 2 weeks ago and just continue the story of Tyler's first weekend with me. So if you remember, I had just brought Tyler home, and he was in the basement of the home I lived in on Long Island with my parents. And he was in the basement and having the time of his life, getting to know me, getting to know my parents, and rubbing us, and he was sitting on the ping pong table. So now we'll continue the story. Finally, after 2 hours of cat bliss, Tyler found the red easy chair that was on one side of the basement, curled up, passed out cold, still purring. "Daniel, I have bagels and whitefish spread. Are you hungry?" my mother asked. Dumb question. I was always hungry. "Sure, let's eat," I replied. Those 3 words were the happiest words my mother ever heard. That is true. He looks like he wants to sleep anyway, my father, justifying his desire to eat and watch cable and probably check the weather forecast. My father rarely did anything outside, probably still doesn't. Why he needed to check the weather 200 times a day, I'll never know. Did he have a crop somewhere that he was hiding from us? I let my parents go upstairs first and went over to Tyler. He was already in a deep sleep, curled up and purring gently, the picture of contentment. "I love you already, Tyler," I said to him gently. "You're my boy. You will want for nothing. It's just you and me from now on." He looked up at me, squinted his eyes, and purred. I scratched his chin, and he closed his eyes and picked his head up, signaling his contentment and enjoyment. Then he went back to sleep, the happiest cat in the world. Upstairs we went and had our bagels. Meals with my parents usually went the same way back in those days of the late 90s, early 2000s. My mother would serve my father, I would serve myself, and I would bring a magazine and read it at the table while my father stared at the TV and flipped through the channels. Remember magazines? A car magazine, an entertainment magazine, something like that. I had and still have varying interests and am a voracious magazine and newspaper reader. I read at the table mostly to annoy him as well. We would always have the exact same exchange. "Danny," he would say, "don't read at the table." I would reply, "Stop staring at the TV and I'll stop reading this magazine." This was in the days before iPhones and iPads and tablets, by the way. I read all my magazines on an iPad these days or on a laptop. Imagine if iPads existed back then. I'd be reading even more. There probably wouldn't even be an argument, though, because, these days everybody's staring at their phones at tables, so my father would probably be staring at his phone, too, if we had smartphones back then. So I asked, "What do you guys think of him? When do you think we could let him see the rest of the house?" "I don't know, Daniel. He just got here. Maybe in a few weeks," my mother said. My mother seemed to be in no hurry to let Tyler see the rest of her precious home. If it was up to her, Tyler would live in that very spacious basement for the rest of his life. Sigh. "Okay," I replied. I knew when it was time to drop an argument and drop the subject. I went back to the bagel and lox. There almost always was some form of lox or lox spread in my fridge in those days. My mother was big into bagels, lox spreads, those kind of things. We did grow up Jewish after all, and that was a staple of my Brooklyn Jewish upbringing, is bagels and lox. I took in enough omega-3 from the lox in my first 28 years to last probably several lifetimes. We were just finishing the lunch when I suddenly heard a howl coming from the basement. Woo! Woo! Literally sounded like that. It sounded like a poltergeist was in the basement. "I think Toilet is awake," my mother said. Sure enough, a moment later, there appeared what looked like a paw, no, actually an entire cat leg, sticking out from under the basement door. I couldn't help but laugh. "Let's go hang out with Tyler some more," my father said, getting up from the table. Again, this surprised me. Of the two, I didn't think my father would be the one to take so quickly to having a cat in the house. I always thought my mother would be the one to take to him first, but she was the one that seemed a little hesitant to having a cat in the house, at least in these early hours. It wasn't quite there. Keeping Tyler from seeing the rest of his house, much to Tyler's annoyance, we went back downstairs to the basement. Tyler ran right up to us, like a tour guide at the Met, ready to show us his territory. Meow, meow, meow. He cried, ever the confident cat. He was very, very happy to see us. Jumped right back on the ping pong table for another session of rubbing, flipping onto his back, and generally happy cat type stuff. He loved to have his chin scratched and his head and ears as well. He was never ever able to get enough of having his head scratched. We spent the better part of the afternoon in the basement watching TV and just hanging with Tyler. Tyler settled onto the back of one of the two floral couches that were down there. My mother had a thing for floral couches. Maybe she was colorblind? I don't know. They were hideous couches. No offense, Mom. And he just hung out with us. Much to my disappointment, Tyler didn't seem to be a lap cat. What he preferred to do was just be in the same room with us and hang out, like one of the family. But he didn't want to sit on anybody's lap. For once, I focused on Tyler more than the TV. And that was how the rest of the day went. The next morning, Tyler was finally broken out of the basement. He howled for the better part of that night, the night of Saturday, December 9th. So finally, my mother caved. Early the next morning, I opened the door, and out flew Tyler. If a cat could say, "Whoa," he would have said it. I swear his jaw dropped a little and his eyes bugged out as soon as he started to see the rest of the house. For the next several hours, Tyler was the nonstop explorer. No offense to Dora. He checked out every corner of the house, jumped on whatever he could jump on, and left his mark on everything. The entire time, his tail was straight up in the air, which is, as any cat owner knows, is cat for "I'm very happy." This was his home now, his territory, and it became his job to patrol every corner. And for a cat, this took planning. This meant windows needed to be looked out of. This meant every corner needed to be sniffed, and every obstacle needed to be gotten out of his way. Tyler looked out and surveyed his new territory from every window and every vantage point. From moment one, Tyler was what was known as an alpha cat. And if anybody who has a cat knows, they know what alpha cat means, but just for argument's sake, Tyler was the boss. He was in charge, and we were just his subjects. As this was, early on, I followed him from a discreet distance. This was, after all, literally my first day with the cat, and I didn't want to miss a thing. "Let him explore, Danny. Stop following him," my father called out from his chair. I ignored him. Not only because I wanted to be with Tyler, but I also hated when he called me Danny. The pipes were never calling to me. I wish he would stop calling me that. You know what I mean? Besides, it was the most fun I had had in a very long time. Just watching Tyler explore, watching him take everything in, looking around, just being this happy cat in this new large home, it just warmed my heart. It was a new experience to me, and I just loved every minute of it. "This is your home, little boy. This is your home now. What do you think?" He would look at me and flip on his back every time I spoke to him. By this time, he was even letting me rub his stomach and chest, as well as his chin. He even started grabbing onto me with all four of his paws and hold onto my arm a while I rubbed his stomach, which was adorable. Not angry, just being playful. Not even a full day together, and we had an inseparable bond. I was told that pets tend to bond from the person that does the actual rescuing, like the person that actually brings them home from the shelter. Since that was me, he bonded with me instantly. That bond literally lasted for the rest of his life. That night, Tyler ate his dinner, fancy feast, don't judge, in the kitchen with us as a family. I was smiling so much, my cheeks hurt. We timed it so that he would eat when we would eat, and it was adorable. The kitchen had a sliding glass door to the backyard where there was a pool. So that evening, following dinner, Tyler sat on the rug by that sliding glass door, cleaned his face with his paw, like most cats do after they eat. And I really love to watch them do that because it's really cute because, cats can't use napkins. They don't have thumbs. And he would watch the world go by. That became his nightly routine. Dinner, clean face, sit by sliding glass door, watch world. I loved to just sit and watch him. What was he thinking? What was he staring at? Was he happy? Did he like his home? Did he think about his past? It felt like Tyler had been one of the family for years. That evening, just as I was watching TV in bed, there was a meow and a light scratch at my door. I hadn't quite gotten used to leaving the door open for cats yet, so I was still leaving the door closed. Because I like to be alone, because I was young, and we'll leave it at that. As soon as I opened the door, there Tyler was, wanting in. Who was I to say no? My cat wants to cuddle with me at night? No problem. I let him in, got back in bed, and let him wander around my room, not knowing what to expect. Not 10 minutes later, Tyler jumped on the bed and walked right onto my chest and sat down, staring at me. Purring, eyes half shut, which was usually a sign of a cat very relaxed. Hello, little boy. How can I help you? Tyler chirped, gave me a headbutt, purred, and sat with me some more. I was so happy, I almost cried. I kissed his head and he curled up next to me. I put our arm around him and we fell asleep that way. My cat and me. And we fell asleep like that every night ever since. So there you have it. That was Tyler's first weekend with me. And I'm not making any of this up just to make a podcast sound good. That was literally how it went, including my mother's accent and my father's accent. I hope you enjoyed. Once again, TylerTheCat.com, Shelter Cats on Facebook, Shelter Cats Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and Shelter Cats Pod on Twitter. And we'll see you in future episodes every Sunday. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll leave you with this little word of advice. Memorial Day is coming up. I think people light fireworks and do stupid things like that. I'm not a fan of fireworks. And have barbecues, which I love barbecues. Just be careful around fireworks and cats, because sometimes they get scared. So don't be surprised if your cat is jittery next weekend, if your neighbors are lighting fireworks or being loud or having loud parties or anything like that. Just keep in mind your cat may be a little jittery, so just give them extra love. Give them a safe space for them to hide if they want to hide. And don't take it personally. They're just a little freaked out by all the noise. And if you have a barbecue and you have people going in and out of your house, just keep an eye that your cat doesn't run out. Because sometimes people forget and leave the door open, or they don't close it all the way. And just make sure that everybody you have over as a guest, make sure that they're aware that there's a cat in the house and they need to make sure the door's closed and look after the cat's safety. Have fun, but be safe. That's it for today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next Sunday.